A Filipino senator who oversaw former President Rodrigo Duterte's deadly war on drugs has avoided arrest by locking himself inside the country's Senate. The International Criminal Court has issued a warrant for the arrest of Ronald Dela Rosa on suspicion of crimes against humanity. But Dela Rosa ended up running away from agents and hid in his Senate office, where he was placed under protective custody. Here to tell us more is Aries Arugay from the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies at the Yusof Ishak Institute in Singapore. Mr. Arugay, thanks very much for your time this evening. Before we get to the bazaar, let's start with the basics. Who is Ronald Dela Rosa and what was his role in Rodrigo Duterte's war on drugs?
Yeah, thanks for having me. Rogelio de la Rosa, also known as Bato or The Rock, in Philippine politics, is an incumbent senator. He was recently elected in the midterm elections last year, but he's more known as being a very loyal political ally of the former President Rodrigo Duterte, who when Duterte was mayor of Davao City, De La Rosa was the chief of police in Davao. And then when Rodrigo Duterte became president in 2016, De La Rosa was appointed as chief of the Philippine National Police and is said to be the one who directly implemented the operations that led to the very bloody and violent drug war that allegedly killed thousands of drug addicts and participants in the illegal drugs in the country.
Tell us a bit more about the charges that he's facing. Are they as serious as the ones against Duterte?
Yes, definitely, because in the hearings that were held by the International Criminal Court, I think this was a couple of months ago, De La Rosa was named as a direct co-perpetrator. And in fact, according to the now public warrant of arrest issued by the International Criminal Court, he is also charged with crimes against humanity. And this time around, for the murder of around, I think, 32 Filipinos during the drug war when he was chief of the Philippine National Police.
So the senator was seen running back to his office, even tripping on some stairs as he was evading officers. He's now hauled up in the Senate. What happens now?
Well, because De La Rosa has been hiding for 6 months before appearing yesterday. And this has something to do with two developments. One is the successful endorsement of the impeachment complaint against Sara Duterte, who is now the only official to be impeached twice, meaning there's a complaint that has been endorsed by the House that must proceed to trial. The senators are like De La Rosa will become senator jurors in the trial. And the second development is that there's a change in the Senate leadership, and De La Rosa needed to cast his vote in order to change the current president of the Senate, who is more anti-Sara Duterte than the one who replaced him and is the ally of De La Rosa.
Let's move on to that issue that you've just raised. So while Rodrigo Duterte is battling the International Criminal Court, his daughter Sara, who is the current Vice President of the Philippines, has been impeached for a second time. Talk us through how this came about and why it was successful this time as opposed to last time.
Well, she was already impeached, meaning there was a complaint that was processed by the House of Representatives. But her lawyers went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court deemed the impeachment complaint that was endorsed last year as unconstitutional because it was procedurally flawed. So what the House of Representatives and the complainants that filed the impeachment complaint against Sara Duterte did was to follow the process that was prescribed by the Supreme Court decision. And therefore, as what the news have said, Sara Duterte is no longer contesting this particular second impeachment complaint that has been successfully endorsed. So now I think Sara Duterte is preparing for the trial. The big question is, given the change in Senate leadership, how soon this trial will commence, because the previous president of the Senate said that he will convene the Senate to become the impeachment court immediately. But given that the current Senate president is seen or perceived to be an ally of the Duterte family, the Duterte dynasty. He even ran as Rodrigo Duterte's running mate in the 2016 elections as vice presidential candidate. It remains to be seen how quick he will process the impeachment complaint that has been endorsed by the lower house.
With everything that's happening with both Sara Duterte and her father, how do voters in the Philippines feel about her?
Well, there hasn't been any change since she officially declared that she wanted to run for the presidency. The elections won't happen until May 2028. So it's quite an early declaration, but that was really a political maneuver in order to frame her impeachment to be a future election issue, meaning she dared the members of the House that I'm the front runner because early polling suggests that she's the front runner in the elections, although the elections won't happen 2 years from will happen 2 years from now. But the idea here is that she remains popular, but that's only because there hasn't really been an opportunity to really expose. And she has refused to explain how she has spent, for example, confidential funds, and that is the basis of the impeachment against her. And she continues to deny that she didn't threaten the president by stating that the words that she issued, that she hired an assassin to kill the president, the first lady, and the former speaker of the House once she gets killed, is taken out of context. These are the basis of the impeachment complaint that was successfully endorsed by 80% of the House against her.
And despite everything that's happening here, is this likely to damage her candidacy for president at all?
Well, at the moment, Sara Duterte is a polarizing figure because if you go to the southern part of the country, particularly Mindanao, she almost has 100% support. But Mindanao is only 30% of the country. She's not as popular, for example, in the northern part of the country that includes the nation's capital, Metro Manila. So therefore, it's quite too early to tell that she could really win the elections. And in fact, if the impeachment trial will commence, that might have an impact on her because she needed to put up a good defense. If not, there might be glaring evidence incriminating her on the alleged misuse of confidential funds and the death threats that was issued against the president and others.
Aries Arugay from the Institute of Southeast Asian Studies at the Yusof Ishak Institute in Singapore. We really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you.